Hey everyone, hope you're having a good one. I'm Blogger the Hut, and this is every new species in the Acolyte. Before I get into it, I want to give a huge thank you to Matty T, who's been helping me out on Twitter, spotting and checking all these species. If you like this video, you should definitely check his stuff out, and I've put links in the description for that. Right, let's get into it, starting with creatures. So the first creature we have is the Dybbuk, I think it's pronounced. So this creature that's used to kind of subdue prisoners, and then you can see there as it's light enough to sort of float away and then use its limbs to crawl. Then we have this little creature, weird creature in a Chimea's shop. You can see it in the kind of case to the right there. You can definitely see it moving, and if you look closer you can also see these kind of eye stalks that it's got as it's kind of moving around trapped in the thing. Presumably it secretes some kind of chemical that can be used for poisons. As you can see, it's just got these different limbs that can move around and expand and contract. We see interesting little detail how it folds itself up when Yord lights his lightsaber. And then later on we see that once he's disengaged his lightsaber, the thing's kind of opened up again. Next on Brendok, we have these cute little floating things, really translucent wings, gorgeous colors to them, very kind of ethereal, almost kind of Avatar-y type creatures, but still feels Star Wars-y enough. Then we have the Umbra Moth, this kind of cool, dangerous creature. So we see them here first off, sort of wrapped around the trees. So this is kind of their dormant state. So later on in the series, it was said that they'd hatched. So this is presumably their kind of larva state just before they've fully hatched out. You can see there as they've sort of fully rooted themselves into the trees. And then we see it sort of slowly slither off as it's hatched and then coming into view there. So we see all the eyes and the massive mandibles as it comes and tries to attack Saul. And then we have the detail, of course, that they're attracted to light, as May's sort of getting them all there to follow her with the light and bringing them all to Chimea. So you see they're pretty fearsome and strong enough to carry off a full-grown adult human. And we see them again trying to attack. So it shows that they can sort of plan and sneak up on their prey. Next we have these adorable little creatures, the Skura, native to this mysterious Cortosis mine planet. I do love the detail there, how they sort of hide and try to pretend to be rocks, clearly kind of natural camouflage, and how they have this family dynamic, very affectionate to each other with the parents and the little one. The typical Star Wars cute critter. And moving on to sentient species, we have a few on Ueda. Kicking things off, we have this guy walking across the center of the screen. Really blurry, can't tell if it's human or not. Then we have this really cool alien with the kind of bulbous thing on its mask, clearly adapted to living in a different environment. Then a couple of species in this noodle bar. We have these parrot-beaked guys with the bony heads and the little long-necked guy in between them slurping noodles. Then we have the really cool hairy bartender with the wide eyes. You see there's sort of little flaps of skin behind his eyes as well. And then we see that he's got this most adorable little kid with him. Then probably my favourite alien, this really cool one with the kind of handlebar bony bits on its head as he tries to take on May. Just really kind of cool features, and good that we got to see him up close before he gets KO'd by a table. Next we have this youngling with this orange skin and the little nodules on the back of his head. We see him a bit closer up front here with the kind of pincers around his mouth, almost vaguely Rhodian looking, but definitely a different species. Then we have the prisoners. So we have this huge, imposing guy with the tentacle coiled around his neck. Very big and scaring. Kind of almost a bit of a shark-like presence, but definitely a few different qualities, as we see here in the breakout part, where the tentacle coils off the top of his head and is strong enough to grab and decapitate this patrol droid. Then this other species here, found this one a bit weird, to be honest. It could possibly be an augmented human that just looks odd with this cybernetic eye. Moving on to Olega, we have a bunch of different aliens, including this hulking guy with the long gorilla type arms. Then we have this guy in the background with the tall horns. And also in the same shot we have this merchant with the kind of big horns. We see him here talking to May with the mask and the horns, possibly inspired by the Bando Gora from Bounty Hunter. Then on the right here we have these two aliens in the bright green hoods. And in this shot we have two aliens. We have this yellow guy walking across and this woman with the dark markings around the eyes. And in the same shot we have this guy in the background with the long kind of ponytail. We can't, here he is from the front, but you just can't see. Could be a human with a cool haircut, could be an alien, don't know. Then moving on to the witches, we have this character who appears a number of times in the background with a bluish face and the kind of top knot type hairstyle. We see her up close a few times. Markings look a lot bluer in the night, but definitely some kind of non-human species. Now this person is almost definitely human, but there were species in Star Wars such as the Arcanians who are human resemblant but have very pale skin and light hair, so on the off chance I've included her. Then this other species, I initially thought Dathomirian, but as you can see the spikes are rounded, not tipped. Compared to coral there, you can see they're definitely a different pattern. Then this species with the blue markings around the eyes, possibly human, possibly some kind of effect of the witchcraft maybe, but anyway. And this species who we see almost exclusively in the background, but you see a better in this behind the scenes image. Again, could very well be human, but including just on the off chance that she's something else. Then we have the Jamura, the Elder Narses species. Definitely a standout from the rest of the much more human looking witches. Definitely lends that kind of elder species with the sort of their facial pouches. Almost looks a vaguely resemblant of a Celestin, but it's been confirmed on StarWars.com that it is a unique species. And in the Jedi Temple we have this guy on the right. We see up close definitely some alien features with the nose and the ears and those lined markings around the eyes as well. Then in the background I really like this kind of older alien hunched over with the tall pointy head. And this guy who seems to be just walking in the background constantly with the bluish skin and the long hair. And then we have the Tynnan species. Now, Tynans are technically not new. They were an EU or Legends species, and they have been mentioned, I believe, in canon, but this is their first proper appearance with Basil, the tracker. So we see their kind of key quality there being that their amazing sense of smell that they're able to track, and that seems to be kind of their primary sense. Oh, he's even blindfolding himself there to make his sense of smell more acute. And then their language is kind of quite animalistic, similar to Wookiees, but less common. And then a lot of their behaviour seems to be around this kind of sniffing response, so quite often sniffs at things even that probably wouldn't necessarily have a smell like droids, but just seems to be his kind of instinct is to react to everything first by smell. Reasonably intelligent though, does seem a bit out of his depth when handling Pip, but obviously he does eventually figure out sort of where to put him on charge and stuff, so yeah, obviously relatively advanced species. And it's this kind of strange communication by sort of dance and movement. I've got to be honest, I did find him in these later episodes a bit strange. I really liked him to begin with, but then I just couldn't figure out his behaviour. Not so easy as Chewbacca, but then again we see his sort of tracking ability come into play later in the episodes. Then we have these kind of large, stocky kind of species on Brendok. See them sort of hanging around the spaceport. Clearly they have some kind of role there. Going back to the Jedi Temple, we have this species here with green skin and these kind of fins behind the ears. See it in the background just there. And also on the Jedi Temple, we have this species walking past here with a kind of bony ridge on the top of the head. And then an engineer at the spaceport with this kind of blocky-headed species. Then we have this member of the Jedi Strike Team. Very human, could well be a near human, but you can definitely see these kind of bluish spot markings around his head. And then another member of the Strike Team, we see him first here on the temple, and then walking past here, again, very kind of near human, but these blue skin patterns except for around the face. And lastly, on Coruscant on the left, we have this senator with very, very black skin. You can see him sort of in the background there, but in this next shot we see very clearly his non-human features, this very tall ridge on the top of his head and white markings around the back of his head as well. Well everyone, that is it. That is every new species I spotted in the Acolyte. Thank you so much for watching. If you do like this stuff, you can subscribe, and I'll be covering Skeleton Crew in the new year. I also cover stuff like this on my blog as well from time to time, so check that out if you're interested, but no pressure at all. And thank you very much again for watching, and may the Force be with you.